Good morning, this is Mrs. Boots, and today we're going to talk about a new term, which is coterminal angles. Coterminal angles means that they start at the same side and end on the same side. So we could use the word terminate instead of end. So they have the same initial and the same terminal sides. So your initial side is always going to be at 0. That's my start or my initial side every time. Okay? Your terminal side can be anywhere in the quadrant or in any quadrant, right? So, things to remember. If I'm rotating counterclockwise, so counterclockwise is positive and clockwise is negative. Counterclockwise is positive, clockwise is negative. The other thing we have to know is that just like with a circle, my coordinate axis only has 360 degrees. So anything bigger than 360 degrees, we're going to have to subtract to figure out which quadrant it's in. So remember, review here, that's quadrant 1 is the top left. Top right. Then I have quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. All right, so let's see if we can figure out for each one of these angles what the positive coterminal angle is, meaning if I rotate counterclockwise, or my negative coterminal angle. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to have to do is take this and subtract 360 degrees. So I'm going to take my 405 and subtract 360. That's where our handy dandy calculator comes in. And you've probably already done this in your head, so I take 405 minus 360. 45 degrees. Okay, so my positive angle is at 45 degrees. So which quadrant is 45 degrees in? That's quadrant 1. So if I came over here and drew my graph, then I would have a positive angle of 45 degrees. All right, so now we need to find the negative angle. So if my total is 360, that means I can subtract 360 again. So I'm going to take my answer that I just got, 45 degrees, and subtract 360. Now, yes, it's going to give me a negative number. That's why it's called a negative angle. So I'm just going to subtract 360, and I get negative 315. So my negative angle is going to be negative 315. And that should be the case every time. My positive angle should be a positive number. My negative angle should be a negative number. Okay? Let's try a few more examples. So I have 450 degrees. Same thing. I'm going to take 450 minus 360. So 450 minus 360, that gives me 90 degrees. So we forgot to denote that this was in quadrant 1. Sorry about that. Okay, so 90 degrees. Where is 90 degrees at? Okay, so if I draw my X and Y axis, 90 degrees is going to be right here. Okay, well that's a little trickier. Is that in a particular quadrant? No, that's actually between two quadrants. Okay, so we're not going to label that with a quadrant. But now we need to find the negative angle, the negative coterminal angle. So my positive coterminal angle would be 90 degrees. That's where it's at. And then we're going to take that 90 degrees and subtract 360 again. And we get 270. And it's negative. Remember, it's negative. So this would be negative 270 degrees. So my positive coterminal angle for 450 is 90, and my negative is negative 270. This is not in a quadrant, okay, because it's partway in between. It's basically right on the line, division line between quadrant 1 and quadrant 2. Okay, so let's try our next angle. Our next angle is 480 degrees. So we take our angle, 480 is bigger than 360, so I'm going to subtract 360 degrees. Now, what if it was way bigger, okay, and I didn't get it within 360 the first time I subtract? That's okay. We just keep subtracting until we get it under 360 degrees so we can figure it out. So this is positive 120. It's 120 degrees. So where would 120 degrees be? Okay, so it's not going to be in quadrant 1 because that goes 0 to 90. And here is 180, so 120 is going to be over here somewhere. So this is in quadrant 2. So my positive coterminal angle is 120 degrees. Okay, now we need to go find our negative coterminal angle. So we're going to take our 120 and subtract 360. So every time, notice we're subtracting 360. We start with a positive number bigger than 360. All we do is subtract 360 to get our positive angle, subtract 360 again to get our negative angle. So 120 minus 360 is negative 240. So this would be negative 240 degrees. So notice if I do a positive 120 degrees or a negative 240 degrees, both starting at 0, they're going to end at the exact same point in quadrant 2. And that's what we're talking about with coterminals angle. They end at the exact same position. Okay, so let's do 625. 625 minus 360. Okay. That's 265. Okay, so 265. So I have 0 degrees. I have 90 degrees. I have 180 degrees. I have 270. So 265 is going to be right here in quadrant 3. So my positive coterminal angle, remember it rotates counterclockwise. And then my negative coterminal angle, we still have to find. So this was 265, was my positive coterminal angle. Now we're going to take that and subtract 360 again. And we get a negative 95 degrees. So our negative coterminal angle is negative 95 degrees. Splendid. You're doing great. Okay, so last one. Notice we're given a negative angle. Oh my. Well, now we're going to have to do the opposite because obviously we're going around the wrong direction. We're going around clockwise, getting negative angles. So we need to add 360 degrees. Okay, so notice 360 is still 360. Now we're just changing the sign. So negative 570 plus 360. And I got a negative 210. Okay, but I need a positive number in between 0 and 360. So I'm going to add 360 again to get my positive coterminal angle, which is 150 degrees. Remember, positive coterminal angle has to be a positive number. And this is in quadrant 2. because it is between 0 and 180, sorry, 90 and 180, really. Okay, so there's my 150. So 150 degrees right here, that's my positive coterminal angle. And then we're going to take our 150 and subtract 360. We should get our negative 210, and we did. So we have negative 210 down here as our negative coterminal angle. You guys are doing awesome. Great job.